One of the things that I found, I think it was on the ProEnglish site or another, is, when our forefathers created our Constitution, that they never included English as the official language. Well, the fact is, back then, there was really no idea of how many immigrants would be coming to this new country. So the idea of having English as the official language was something that was never thought of. In your organization, Suzanne, I'm sure this issue comes up as you deal with opponents day in and day out, trying to come up with intangible reasons that I want to say, oh, no, you're just being unfriendly, you're being a bigot, you're being this or that. What do you say to people that say, we're not being friendly to immigrants by forcing them to learn English?
The response to that is usually really easy. It's actually the complete opposite of that. Telling immigrants that they don't need to learn English and that they should just demand, multilingual services their whole life is actually kind of anti-immigrant. It's actually pro-immigrant and good for them to be honest and say, in the United States, you are going to do so much better for yourself once you get here, if you learn English and you learn it quickly. Just like you said, you're not going to have to rely on, living in a state where they have, multilingual driver's exams that, accommodate your language. Right now, depending on the state that you live in, it's almost like the government is choosing winners and losers.
Correct.
They're choosing certain languages to accommodate. In Maryland, for example, they have, something like 16 different languages for driver's license exams. But then if you go to Virginia, there's only 2, English and Spanish. So that, to me, is a little anti-immigrant and discriminatory. They're discriminating against certain immigrant languages and choosing others to accommodate. So that, when you really explain it to people that way, when I visit with staff and legislators, and you really explain it like that, they do see the folly of, this multilingual, all these multilingual mandates. Sometimes some of the more libertarian legislators don't quite understand official English because they think it's, mandating or regulating language. But that's really not the case. It's really, the multilingual lobby, the multiculturalist lobby they're the ones doing all the mandating and forcing, and regulating, and
they're pick and choosing, like
you
said, which
comply
languages.
with all of these government mandates.
It's really, government is not doing any service at all, any justice to people of non-English speaking language. This is Speak Your Mind with Eddie Garcia. We're going to go to a break, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to Speak Your Mind. This is Eddie Garcia, and today's subject is, do we need English to be our official language in our country? I say yes, as does my guest on the line right now, Suzanne Bibby, Director of Government Relations for ProEnglish.org. And we're going to open up the phone lines and encourage folks to call in. Union County line is 541-963-4122. Baker County is 541-523-4431. Let us know if you've got any questions, or let us know what you think about making English our official language in the United States of America. And if we have to do it state by state, then by God, that's what we have to do. But I think we can really push our congressional folks that we elect into office to pass this law nationally so that we can encourage immigrants to learn English and we stay united as a country in one common official language. Suzanne, one of the things that I pulled out from the ProEnglish.org site was earning potential. And I found the link and this following bit of information. In December 2012, the Lexington Institute released a major study which assessed the financial costs associated with the failure to learn English in the United States. The major findings and conclusions are based on the most recent 2010 census. So $37.7 billion in annual earnings are missed by Spanish-speaking English learners. Another tidbit was 42% of adult Spanish-speaking English language learners failed to graduate from high school compared to 11% of non-Spanish-speaking English learners. So that in itself sets these folks really behind the 8 ball for them to achieve independence, to achieve some level of success, and whatever that level of success may be, owning their own business or starting entry level and working their way up into management. But at the crux of it all, what ties it together is the ability to understand and speak English. So what can you say about the limited potential in earning for folks that don't learn English?
Yeah, it's interesting because, you mentioned that study actually addressed the economic impact of having an increasing, non-English speaking workforce, which kind of ties into the whole amnesty debate. We're constantly hearing, oh, we need more immigration to, boost the economy. But what this study is saying is actually having more people not speaking English, especially in the workplace, is hurting the economy. The U.S. economy is missing those wages every year because these workers are staying in lower level jobs and they're not, being promoted from, working in the kitchen to, being at the cash register to moving up to being a hostess or, a manager, of a restaurant or a company or something like that. So yeah, it definitely has a huge impact. I think in the same study, actually, they found, they broke up the rate at which immigrants live under the poverty level. And for Spanish-speaking immigrants, 61% of them live under the poverty level, whereas immigrants that don't speak Spanish, every other language other than Spanish, live at a rate around 39% below the poverty level. So you can see how much more, the availability of, free interpreters,
right.
Translated documents and signs and all sorts of things really does hurt. It disproportionately hurts Spanish speakers. Whereas the other side always says, well, we're helping them by doing this. But it's not actually the case. It's really a myth. It's when you look at the data and you look at the numbers, you really do see the negative impact. It's really sad, and where that's kind of what we're trying to do is spread the word and make sure, especially, the things that they're passing in Congress don't further that trend.
Yeah, and make it more difficult. I'm going to give out the lines again. Union County phone line is 541-963-4122. Baker County is 541-523-4431. As we're talking about limited earning potential of folks that don't learn English, that can't speak English, I found on your website, and before I talk about this lawsuit in Arizona of a nursing student, one of the things in Tennessee that when I was lobbying the legislature and on making English the only language for the driver's license exam in the state of Tennessee for public safety, to save Tennesseans over $500,000 that is spent on producing and distributing manuals in Spanish and other issues. As I talked to a lot of police officers, they said it's a safety factor for them on the road when they pull someone over. They can't communicate. They have to call dispatch. But many of them said a consequence of giving these other languages is the police departments, through City Hall or whatever the government controls, the law enforcement agency, mandating that police officers learn Spanish to keep their jobs or get promoted. And I think that's unreasonable. I think it's unfair. The burden should not be on, in that case, law enforcement to learn another language to keep their jobs or get promotions. The language that we speak, again, is English. We should encourage, and you know what? Let's force somehow immigrants to learn the English language so they can participate and be safer on the roads to read signs, electronic billboard signs, any kind of sign that evokes a message of information, safety, warning, or hazard. But this lawsuit that I found on your website is about a nursing student in Arizona who requested that the program in her classroom, the academic program, be taught in English. And you can tell us a little bit more about it. But she was chastised or she was suspended from school for. Can you expound a little bit on that? Because I'm a little perplexed.
Yeah. Well, just leading into the discussion about the Arizona lawsuit, what you said about this reverse trend of kind of reverse discrimination against people who only speak English is basically what's happening in this Arizona suit. We get complaints from people all the time that they weren't hired for a job because they didn't speak Spanish. Also, in addition to English, they want someone who's bilingual. But these are typically jobs that you would never have to know another language. I mean, it's not, conducting intelligence or things like that,
right,
where you might need to know Arabic and, all these other languages where it's crucial for the job. But yeah, that's basically what we're starting to see is a trend of reverse discrimination against English-only speakers. So, which is basically what happened to this nursing student. Her name's Terry Bennett, and she was a nursing student at Pima County Community College. It's a school in Tucson, Arizona. And, during the past year, she was in one class, and a nursing class, and she noticed that when they were being broken up into group projects, a lot of the students, most of the students, except for one in the class, one other student, they were all kind of translating back and forth English and Spanish back to each other, which when you're in a group project, it's kind of distracting. It's probably you're being left out of the conversation if you don't know what they're saying.
Sure.
So, it was really inhibiting her ability to learn. So she did, ask the professor with no one else around, just privately, and, went up to him after the class and said, would you please, make sure that everyone's speaking English, because I don't know what's going on in these group work projects, because I can't understand what they're saying. And basically that did not end well for her. The professor, very politically correct professor, kind of did what we hear a lot in the news, that he didn't address the issue in the class, but instead reported it to, the school administration, in which, they labeled her a bigot, and that she was, harassing the other students in the class, and that she was, she was acting in a bad way towards them, even though she never said any of these things in front of them. So, in short, she was suspended, actually, for acting in this discriminatory way and being a bigot, and she was actually escorted off college campus by police. And she was suspended for 9 months, and she's still suspended till currently. So that happened in the spring, and that's when she contacted ProEnglish and said, can you help me? I don't know what else to do. And, ProEnglish is kind of unique in that we do get involved in some of these, crucial cases where someone is being discriminated against unfairly. We want to obviously help to preserve, English language in Arizona, and to defend her right to, be an English-only speaker.
That's amazing.
So we did seek out some legal counsel from a well-known Arizona law firm, Munger and Chadwick. So they're representing her currently. And basically we're just alleging, Arizona has a long-standing official language law, and it's actually an amendment in their constitution. It was passed by 74% of the voters in Arizona. There's no reason that this school should be allowing, multilingual teaching and conversations to go on during the class. So right now, it's the lawsuit is still on. They're not seeking to dismiss it. So now we're just kind of in what they call discovery phase. They're sending us questions, getting more information. We're doing the same for them. So yeah, we're just trying to raise money at this point to keep, we're helping to fund the lawsuit to defend Terry. So that's kind of our big priority right now, is just, trying to raise money to keep it going.
That's amazing. So the student said, I want to be able to understand this class instruction and participate with my fellow students. Can you please speak English? And now she was called a bigot and suspended from school. It's it's unbelievable. I was in Tennessee when State Representative Matt Hill passed English in the workplace. It's the first law in our nation that requires, and it follows the EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, rules that English shall be spoken in the workplace when it's an issue of safety, it's an issue of efficiency. And I was proud to be with Representative Hill from the East Tennessee area as he debated this issue on the floor of the House. And you had your state agency and some folks, immigrant groups, talk about, this is unfair. And again, it's the arguments that is being made, to me, they really are not acting in the best interest of these non-English speakers. Instead of saying, learn English, go to your church, go to your family members, learn English, ask them to help you learn English.